Okay, so to begin styling your text using CSS, you will go up to the menu called Text up above and go to CSS Styles and select New. And today we're going to just talk about two of these selector types. We're going to talk about Class, and later on I'm going to talk about Advanced. But right now we're going to just use Class. And what Dreamweaver is asking you here is to name your style. And I'm going to just call it Main. And you do want to be particular about what you name your styles. Name them something that makes sense, that's easy for you to identify. I like to use Main just because I am determining a style that's going to be used throughout the site. So it's literally one of the main styles. So that is what I'm naming it. And then underneath Define, you'll notice that there are two choices. One says New Style Sheet and the other one says In This Document Only. If we selected this document only, it would be considered using an internal CSS style. We want to use an external CSS file, so we're going to define this in a new style sheet. Okay? The next window here that Dreamweaver has given you, you'll notice right here on the top, see where it says Save Style Sheet File As. Dreamweaver is asking you to name your external CSS file and also to save it somewhere. So I'm going to save it to my desktop, in my Graphic Design 66 folder, in my Final Barasa folder, and it's going to be saved right here at the same level as my HTML and my images folder. And I'm going to call it, I'm just going to call it barasa.css. I normally, it's sort of what I normally do for my CSS files is name it according to the project. You'll see other people naming their things perhaps a little bit differently. I'm going to save it to that folder. Okay, so what I just did was I just named and saved my CSS file. But another piece of information that Dreamweaver needs right here is it needs to know what the properties are for the style that we just defined called main. So you'll see that right up here in the top of the window. So here is where I pick my properties for my text. So I'm going to pick Arial, and notice that by default Dreamweaver will usually list 3 different fonts. A font that's particular to Mac, a font that's particular to PC, and then sort of a general. So because Arial and Helvetica are sans serif fonts, the very last font named here is sans serif. So that if a computer, for whatever reason, it would be hard to believe this would happen, but did not have Arial or Helvetica, it would default to any sans serif font. I'm going to pick my size, so I'll make it, let's say, 11 pixels, and I'm going to pick a color. So I'm just going to pick, I'm actually going to just pick black. And there's another property that you will want to use quite frequently, and that's called line height, which I am going to pick. Let's just pick 16 right now. I may change that. Okay, so line height, and I'm going to hit select OK. Okay, so how do I know that anything has happened? There's 2 ways. One is when you're working with CSS, you should have your CSS styles window open, so we're going to open that right now. Okay, and let me explain here what this is. You'll notice that our CSS file is showing up here called barasa.css. And if I open the caret here, you'll also see that that style we just defined called main is also showing up. So we know that that is now located in our CSS file. And in addition, Dreamweaver has also opened up our CSS file that I can click over to, and you'll see, and this gives you an idea of what a CSS file looks like, which it really is just simply, very much like a text file, but it is giving the properties for the styles that you define. So now I know for sure that that main style is in my CSS, but I want to be able to apply it to my text. And in another video demonstration, I showed you how I simply cut and pasted my text into Dreamweaver from my Photoshop document. And so now I need to apply it. And let me just move my windows over here a little bit. I'm kind of losing space here, so let me make that smaller. Okay. And what you also may notice, and this happens kind of frequently from either Word or Photoshop, is I have some odd little character in here. It looks like a little box that I'm going to just delete from my text, first of all. And then I'm going to apply my style by simply highlighting everything, going up to my Properties inspector right here, and by simply pulling down this style menu, you'll see that main shows up there. So I'm going to select it, and it has styled my text. Now, I wanted to show you how simple it is to change your styling. As you'll notice, 11 pixels looks a little bit small. Also, my line height looks a little bit small also. So if I wanted to change this, I can simply go over here to my CSS window, double click on my style, and change it right where I initially made the definition. And you can also see that there's an apply button. I could apply it. So down below here you can see I'm able to see what my change looks like. So let's change the line height also. In fact, I'm going to go up to about 20 for my line height. Okay, so you can see how simple it is to change your properties for your CSS style. Now, one other thing I want to show you is where this CSS file is linking in your HTML page. So I'm going to click over to code here. We're just going to take a look at the code for our page. And what I specifically want you to look at is within the head of the HTML page, and I'm highlighting it here, you'll see there is a link href that equals barasa.css. And without this link, your text will not be styled accordingly to your external file sheet. So I'll just show you that really quick. Let's say I just cut that. And if we went back here, you'll see that my text is no longer styled. So we need that. Let me undo that, put that back in there. We need this link to our CSS in every single one of our web pages. And I'm going to show you later how to attach a style sheet. It's really easy to do that.